I'm going to try recording outside as I sit in my backyard and enjoy nature for a bit. Hopefully the traffic noise isn't too loud. It's not like I live on a busy street, but the next street over is busy, so you often will hear trucks going by or whatever. Anyway, I was watching some videos yesterday about geopolitics. I love that stuff. As a child, there were 3 things that I really, really wanted to be. One was an astronomer, which, I'm an astrologer, so that kind of makes sense. Another was a neurosurgeon, and the other was I was going to go to American University in Washington, D.C., and I was going to get my PhD in political science, specializing in Sovietology, which now would be Russian studies, with obviously an emphasis on international relations. So I find all this geopolitical stuff that's going on just really, really fascinating. I'm sure a lot of my Facebook friends just roll their eyes at most of the stuff I share. But I just think it's so fascinating how something that happens far, far away can affect so much of the planet. Especially, it didn't used to be that way, but now, because we're all so interconnected with the internet and all that stuff. So, and then of course the oil and how our societies run on oil, and how we have to extract that and control other people through that. Anyway, I was watching a video, and it had one of my favorite people, Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson. And he was talking about a certain country that now, because, we have all these drones and everything, that has changed how wars are played out. There's now a weapon that can be used to make drones just inert, they can't operate. And this machine weapon, whatever you want to call it, it only has like a 3-mile radius, and it's extremely expensive. And I thought, wow, what humans do, how much money they pay, how much energy they use to build stuff, to think of stuff, just to control other people, just to do anything in order to just stay away from looking within. All of what's happening is because people don't want to go within and deal with their own traumas. Some of us have had really, really bad childhoods. Some have been normal. Some have been fine. But there's still trauma. Living in society, it still can be traumatic. So I was just thinking about that. Look at what we do. Just sit back and detach and just look at what humans do to avoid going within. It doesn't have to be, all these wars and stuff and making bombs and making the most efficient killing machines. What do average, everyday people do to avoid looking within? They may acquire possessions. They're materialistic. They have certain obsessions. So you could say they're hobbies, but after a while they become obsessions for some people. But people do so much to not want to face themselves. And look at obesity. Of course, especially in the USA, the food supply is really badly tainted. so that it does encourage overeating and addictions. And the body doesn't recognize this food, so you do eat a lot more of it. I notice if I eat, and I try to eat mostly organic, I don't eat that much. But yet, if I go to something like McDonald's, which I haven't been to in years because gross, but I could probably eat one of those, not a supersized meal, but an actual meal with the Big Mac and fries and what else comes with it, a milkshake or something. I could eat all that and that's just fine, because my body doesn't recognize it as food. But yet if I'm eating at home, like maybe just a quarter pound of hamburger and a quarter cup of rice, and I'm fine if it's organic. So my point is, look at what society is doing just to avoid going within. They have to externalize everything. In fact, look at how people want a savior in certain politicians or just even government. They want to look to the government to save them, but they're not willing to look within and be responsible adults. So that's just my ponderings for the day, is just detach and look at how society, how even ourselves, our neighbors, our friends, how we all do anything to avoid going within. And that's that's what's wrong with the world. Because if we go within, then we can, and a lot of times, sure, we need to have someone with us, a good friend, a good confidant, a healer, somebody who's been through dark nights of the soul and has done a lot of healing themselves. So we don't have to do it alone, but sometimes, like I mostly did it alone. But there are so many resources, so many books, so many things online that we can start to just kind of excavate all those layers, those hardened layers of our personality, our soul. Like the pearl. You know how the pearl, there's a little grain of sand and then it just puts stuff over it and over it. And yeah, it's beautiful on the outside. And so maybe this isn't a good analogy that what we're doing to the world is not a pearl. But in a way, it's another good analogy in that from that trauma, we can cope in a better, beautiful way, a way that can build and make a pearl. So that's what we can do with our traumas. And like Michael Meade says, the wound is the womb. Yeah, the wound is the womb. Our wound, it can become something to grow, a more healed, self-actualized life. So as you're pondering the world and seeing how people are doing anything to avoid going within and to heal. Because if we were all healed, we wouldn't need have this drive and compulsion to control other people. Whether on this, the planetary level, or a state level, a nation level, a city level, or our family. But I think I lost my train of thought. But anyway, if we can just heal ourselves, then we don't have to be so controlling even in our own personal lives. Because look at how you multiply that by billions of people. This is what we have. Everything that's playing out on the stage, because hurt people, wounded people, abrogate their responsibility over to city council, mayor, representatives, governments, or governors, and then, head of state and on up the chain, multinational corporations, things like that. So I think we all at this time need to start pondering where we don't want to go within and what we do to avoid going within. And maybe if more and more of us do this on an individual level, collectively, certainly it will, our energy changes and that changes those around us, that it will eventually reach a global level. So it's just something to ponder.